I'm Kaylee, 32 female. I live in a city that never sleeps, in a small but cozy apartment that serves as my sanctuary from the chaos. By trade, I'm an event planner, a job that requires meticulous attention to detail, a calm demeanor under pressure, and the ability to make magic happen on a budget. I thought I had seen every possible type of client demand and family drama, but nothing prepared me for the moment my own family decided to put my skills, and my wallet, to the ultimate test over a baby shower. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. My relationship with my cousin, Jessica, has always been complicated. We were close as kids, building forts out of blankets and sharing secrets under the stars during family camping trips. But as we grew up, our paths diverged sharply. I found my passion in creating beautiful, memorable experiences for others, building my event planning business from the ground up through long nights and sheer determination. Jessica found her passion in creating a beautiful, memorable online persona. She became a social media influencer. Her life a carefully curated feed of sponsored products, exotic vacations she didn't pay for, and an air of effortless perfection that I knew, from behind the scenes, was anything but effortless. Her engagement to Liam, a sweet but somewhat passive junior financial analyst, was a spectacle. The proposal was a sponsored post. The engagement party was a collaboration with a new champagne brand. I helped her plan the wedding, and it was my first real taste of her modern-day entitlement. Every vendor I suggested was met with, "Can you ask them if they'll do it for exposure?" I ended up pulling a lot of strings and doing a mountain of work for free, all under the guise of family helping family. I did it because, despite everything, I still saw the little girl I used to build forts with. I thought that once she was married and settled, this influencer persona might soften. I was wrong. It only got worse. The pregnancy announcement was, of course, a viral-ready video. It involved Liam, two golden retriever puppies wearing Big Brother bandanas, and a shower of pink confetti that probably took a week to clean up. My phone buzzed with notifications from the family group chat. Everyone was ecstatic. Aunt Brenda, Jessica's mother, was over the moon. Her texts were relentless. "My baby is having a baby. The next generation is here." I sent my congratulations, genuinely happy for them. A new baby is a blessing, and I hoped it would bring a new sense of grounding and maturity to Jessica. A week later, the private message from Jessica arrived. "Hey Kay, so excited to finally be a mommy. You're going to be the best cousin auntie ever. I'm putting you in charge of the baby shower, obviously. Nobody does parties like you. Let's make this epic." I smiled. This was my area of expertise. I loved my cousin, and I was happy to help. "Of course, Jess, I'd be honored. When do you have in mind? Let's talk budget and guest list so I can start pulling some ideas together." Her reply came back almost instantly. "Oh, don't worry about a budget, just make it fabulous. I'll send you the registry link so you can see the vibe I'm going for." The words "don't worry about a budget" are a colossal red flag in my profession. They are usually uttered by people with the tightest, most unrealistic budgets of all. But this was Jessica. For a moment, I allowed myself to believe she meant it, that perhaps Liam had gotten a huge promotion, or that her influencer career was more lucrative than I imagined. I decided to wait for the registry link before making any judgments. It would give me a sense of her taste and expectations. The link arrived the next day. I clicked on it while sipping my morning coffee, my laptop open as I prepared for a client call. The page loaded and I blinked. I blinked again. The header read, "Jessica and Liam's Royal Welcome." The theme was, apparently, royalty. The items listed were astronomical. A $2,000 bassinet that looked like a gilded carriage. A $1,500 designer stroller system. A high-tech baby rocker that cost more than my first car. There were cashmere baby blankets, designer diaper bags that cost upwards of $800, and a solid silver rattle from a luxury jewelry store. I scrolled, my eyes widening with each item. There were clothes from brands I'd only ever seen in high-fashion magazines. There were gadgets and gizmos that promised to make parenting a breeze, each with a price tag that could fund a small wedding. I kept scrolling, waiting to see the normal things, the diapers, the bottle brushes, the pack of plain white onesies. They weren't there. This wasn't a baby registry, it was a fantasy shopping spree. Out of morbid curiosity, I used a browser extension to calculate the total value of all the items on the list. The number that flashed on my screen made my coffee taste bitter, just over $20,000. I sat back, stunned. This was beyond extravagant, it was delusional. Jessica and Liam were not royalty. They lived in a trendy but modest two-bedroom condo. Liam's salary was decent but not spectacular, and while Jessica projected wealth, I knew for a fact that much of her lifestyle was propped up by freebies and brand deals, not actual cash flow. Who did she expect to buy all this? Her friends were mostly other aspiring influencers and people in their late 20s, not a crowd with thousands to spare for baby gifts. I immediately called her. She picked up, sounding bubbly. "Did you see it? Isn't it divine?" "Jess, I saw the registry," I started, trying to keep my tone gentle. "It's beautiful. The theme is very clear, but the total value on here is over $20,000. Is this just a wish list, or are you expecting people to purchase these specific items?" Her voice lost some of its sparkle. "Well, yeah, that's what a registry is for, Kaylee. It's what the baby needs." "Needs? Jess, no baby needs a silver rattle. They need love, safety, and a lot of diapers. We need to be realistic. The people coming to your shower won't be able to afford this. We should add some more practical, affordable options." "I don't want affordable options," she scoffed, the influencer persona taking over. "That's tacky. It cheapens the brand. My followers expect a certain level of quality. This baby shower is also a content opportunity." I took a deep breath. "Okay, I understand that, but this is also a celebration with your family and friends. It's about them sharing in your joy, not about funding a luxury lifestyle for your baby. Let's talk about the shower itself. I have some great ideas for a royal theme that won't break the bank. We can do something beautiful at a restaurant with a private room, or even—" "No," she cut me off. "I've already picked the venue. It's that new botanical garden conservatory downtown. The glass one. I want it catered by that Michelin star chef I did a collab with last year. And I want a flower wall, a big one." I felt a headache coming on. The conservatory venue alone cost a minimum of $10,000 to rent for an afternoon. The catering she was talking about would be another 5 figures. Jessica, who is paying for all of this? A shower like that could cost upwards of $25,000. That's more than most people spend on their weddings. There was a pause. Then she said the words that made my blood run cold. "Well, you're the planner. I assumed you'd handle it, as your gift to the baby." I was speechless. A gift? She wanted me to pay for a $25,000 party and likely buy a gift off her absurd registry, too. My entire business's profit margin for a whole quarter wouldn't cover that. "Jessica, that's not a gift. That's a down payment on a house. I can't afford to do that." "No one can. I'm happy to donate my time and skills to plan it, and I'll help you find vendors that fit a reasonable budget, but I cannot bankroll the entire event." "Reasonable budget?" She repeated the words like they were a foreign language. "This is my first baby. This is the next generation of our family. It deserves the best. I thought you, of all people, would understand." The conversation ended shortly after that, with her saying she needed to think. I felt sick. The joy and excitement I'd felt for her were evaporating, replaced by a growing sense of dread. I had just drawn a line in the sand, and I had a terrible feeling she was about to cross it. The silence from Jessica lasted for 2 days. In that time, I tried to convince myself that I had been too harsh, that maybe she was just caught up in the excitement and didn't realize the absurdity of her request. I even started researching more budget-friendly ways to achieve a royal theme, hoping to present her with a compromise. I thought about calling my grandmother, Eleanor, the undisputed matriarch and moral compass of our family, but I hesitated. I didn't want to be the one to start drama. I decided to give Jessica some space to come to her senses. That hope was shattered on Wednesday evening. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was a text from Jessica, not in our private chat, but in the main family group chat, the one with all the aunts, uncles, and cousins. The message began, "Family update on the baby shower. As you all know, my amazing cousin Kaylee is planning it for me. I sent her my registry, which is full of all the essentials the little princess will need to start her life. I just want to be clear about the expectations for the shower." My heart started to pound. This was a performance. She was setting a stage in front of our entire family. The text continued, "Liam and I believe that a child is a blessing to the whole family, and it's a time for everyone to show their support. This isn't just any par. Ty, it's a celebration of the continuation of our family line. We've put together a list of items that will ensure our daughter has the very best start. We understand that some items are high-end, but that's what support looks like. It's about sacrifice and showing how much you value this new life." I could feel the blood draining from my face. She was framing her greed as a test of our family's love. Then came the final paragraph, the part that was clearly aimed directly at me and our earlier conversation. "With that in mind, if you see the registry and feel you can't afford to give real family support, then we'd rather you not come at all. Your presence without a proper gift would only create awkwardness. We want to be surrounded by people who are truly invested in our child's future. Thank you for understanding." The chat was silent for a few seconds, and then the first reply popped up. It was from Aunt Brenda. "Beautifully said, honey. She's carrying the next generation. People need to show some respect for that. It's the least we can do for a new mother." Another aunt chimed in with a heart emoji. An uncle wrote, "Whatever the princess needs." I was horrified. She had twisted the narrative so completely, painting anyone who couldn't afford her ridiculous demands as unsupportive and disrespectful. She was holding her baby shower hostage, using emotional blackmail to extort our family members, many of whom I knew were on tight budgets, retirees, young couples just starting out. And my own aunt was cheering her on. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a private text from Aunt Brenda. "Kaylee, I saw you read the group message. I hope you now understand what Jessica was trying to tell you. This is not the time to be cheap. Your cousin is sensitive right now with all the hormones. You have a successful business. It's your duty to help your family. Booking that conservatory and making sure she has a beautiful day is the bare minimum we expect from you. Don't disappoint us." The audacity of it stole my breath. It wasn't just Jessica, it was her mother too. They were a team. They had discussed this. They had decided to corner me to use family pressure as a weapon. The phrase "real family support" echoed in my head. To them, support wasn't love or time or being there for someone. It was money. It was gifts. It was funding their delusions of grandeur. I thought about my own life. I'd worked since I was 16. I put myself through college. I took out a loan to start my business and had spent years paying it back, working 80-hour weeks. The success Aunt Brenda spoke of was built on my own sweat and sacrifice. I wasn't a trust fund baby. I didn't have a safety net. I had helped Jessica with her wedding out of love, and now they were trying to leverage that love into a blank check. My initial reaction was pure rage. I wanted to type a blistering response in the group chat, exposing the $20,000 registry and the $25,000 party demand. I wanted to call out their shameless greed and manipulation. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to unleash a firestorm. But then a different feeling washed over me. It was the calm clarity that comes after the initial shock. I was an event planner. My job was to solve problems, often by navigating difficult personalities and impossible demands. Exploding in a group chat was what they wanted. It would make me look emotional, unhinged. It would prove their narrative that I was the one being difficult. They were baiting me, and I refused to take it. What was the core of their ultimatum? Don't bother coming if you can't afford real family support. What was their demand of me? Book the conservatory. Handle it. It's your gift. They had laid out their terms, believing their emotional blackmail gave them all the power. But in their arrogance, they had given me an opening. They had presented me with a clear, binary choice, and they were so certain I would cave to the pressure. I looked at Aunt Brenda's text again. Don't disappoint us. A cold, quiet resolve settled in my chest. I wouldn't disappoint them. I would give them exactly the response their ultimatum deserved. The rage was still there, but it was no longer a hot, messy fire. It was a cold, sharp piece of steel. For the rest of the evening, my apartment felt like a pressure cooker. My phone was a ticking time bomb on the coffee table. I could see the notifications piling up on the lock screen, more pings from the family group chat, a missed call from another cousin, probably dispatched by Jessica to gauge my reaction, and a few more heart emojis from relatives who either agreed with the sentiment or were too afraid to question it. I ignored them all. I made myself a cup of chamomile tea, the steam warming my cold hands. I walked over to the large window in my living room that overlooked the city lights. My job was about control. It was about managing chaos, not creating it. A public meltdown would be a victory for Jessica. It would feed her narrative, give her content for a toxic family story, and solidify her position as the victim. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. Instead, I thought about the mechanics of the situation. Jessica wanted the party. She wanted the gifts. She had made it clear that my primary value to her was as the person who could make the party happen. She had also made it clear that if I couldn't provide what she considered real support, my presence was not required. The logic was cold, transactional, and deeply insulting, but it was her logic, and I decided to honor it. My mind went to the venue, the stunning, expensive botanical garden conservatory. A few weeks prior, as a gesture of goodwill before the budget conversation had even happened, I had used my industry credentials to place a provisional hold on the venue for her preferred date. It's a common practice for planners. We can often hold a date for 72 hours without a deposit, giving the client time to decide. I had told Jessica I'd done this, and she'd been thrilled. See, this is why you're the best, she had said. She likely assumed the hold was permanent, a done deal. She didn't understand the process. The hold was expiring tomorrow at noon. To secure it, a non-refundable deposit of $5,000 was required. That was the next step she expected me to take. I sat down on my sofa and picked up my phone. I navigated to the family group chat, my thumb hovering over the text box. The last message was still Aunt Brenda's cheerleading for her daughter. I could feel the weight of their collective expectation. They were all waiting for Kaylee, the successful planner, the reliable one, to smooth things over, to fall in line, to pay up. I typed out my reply. It was short. It was simple. It was, in its own way, the truest response I could give. It was exactly what she had, in essence, asked for. To the group chat, where her ultimatum still hung in the air, I wrote just 2 words. Got it. Then I put my phone on silent and turned it face down. A strange sense of calm washed over me. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't argued. I hadn't exposed her. I had simply acknowledged her message. Got it. I understand the terms. I understand the ultimatum. I understand that my financial contribution is the price of admission. Message received. The ambiguity was the point. To Jessica and Aunt Brenda, high on their victory, they would almost certainly interpret "got it" as "okay, you win, I'll do it." They would see it as my capitulation. They would assume I was grumbling, but ultimately falling in line as I always had. They would think I was off to call the conservatory and pay the deposit. They would believe their bullying had worked. For anyone else in the family who felt uneasy about Jessica's message, my reply would be a blank slate. It was non-committal. It didn't endorse her behavior, but it didn't start a fight either. It was a quiet, neutral statement that absorbed all the tension without reflecting it back. But for me, got it meant something entirely different. It meant, I understand my place in this family now. It meant, I understand that my worth to you is monetary. It meant, I understand the conditions you have set for my participation. And most importantly, it meant, challenge accepted. I didn't sleep much that night, but it wasn't from anxiety. It was from a strange, buzzing energy. I was taking back control. For years, I had been the family peacekeeper, the one who smoothed over awkward situations, absorbed the costs of others' expectations, and planned the parties that kept everyone connected. I had done it out of a deep-seated love and a sense of duty. Jessica and Brenda had just shown me that they viewed my love as a resource to be exploited, and my duty as an obligation to be enforced. My simple, two-word reply was not an act of surrender. It was the quiet, confident click of a lock falling into place. It was the first step in a plan they never saw coming. They had built a house of cards on a foundation of entitlement and emotional blackmail, and I had just agreed to let the wind blow. They thought I was going to pay for the party. They had no idea I was about to cancel it. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. The sun was streaming through my window, and for the first time in a long time, the weight of my family's expectations felt gone. It had been replaced by a steely resolve. My phone, still face down on the nightstand, was a silent testament to my decision. I went through my morning routine with a deliberate calmness. I made coffee, answered a few work emails, and confirmed details for a corporate client's upcoming gala. Dealing with a demanding CEO who wanted ice sculptures in the shape of his company's logo felt like a walk in the park compared to my own family. At 10:00 a.m., my phone buzzed with a private message from Jessica. I glanced at it. "Hey, just checking in, so." "Excited for the conservatory. Send me the confirmation when you have it. XOXO. She had taken my "got it" exactly as I predicted, as a sign of my compliance. The condescending little XOXO at the end was the cherry on top. She was sure she had one. I didn't reply. Instead, I looked at the clock. The provisional hold on the conservatory was set to expire at 12:00 p.m. I had a 2-hour window. I could, at any moment, call the venue, give them my credit card number for the $5,000 non-refundable deposit, and secure the date. This would lock me into the path they had chosen for me, or I could do nothing. Doing nothing was the simplest, cleanest option. Let the hold expire, and when Jessica eventually called the venue herself, she would find the date was no longer available. It was passive and effective, but it wasn't enough. Doing nothing felt like letting them off the hook too easily. It allowed them to frame it as a mistake, an oversight. "Oh, Kaylee must have forgotten. She's so busy." No, this needed to be an action. A clear, deliberate action that stemmed directly from their ultimatum. My business, my reputation, was built on relationships. I had a long-standing, positive relationship with the event coordinator at the conservatory, a woman named Maria. I couldn't just ghost her. That would be unprofessional. So I picked up my phone and called the venue. "Botanical Conservatory, this is Maria speaking." "Hi Maria, it's Kaylee," I said, my voice bright and professional. "How are you?" "Kaylee, great to hear from you. I'm doing well. I was just looking at your hold for the Ashton party. Did you want to go ahead and confirm that date? I have another inquiry for it, so the timing is perfect." This was even better than I had hoped. Another interested party meant the date would be snapped up instantly. "Actually, that's why I'm calling," I said, keeping my tone perfectly level. "I need you to release the hold. We won't be moving forward with that booking." There was a brief pause on the other end. "Oh, okay, no problem at all. Is everything all right? Did the client change their mind?" Maria asked, her voice filled with professional curiosity. Here was my chance. I could have made up an excuse. I could have been vague. But I chose to be honest, in a way that protected my professionalism while making the situation crystal clear. "The client has made some alternative arrangements and set some new conditions for the event," I explained carefully. "Based on their new terms, I am no longer financially responsible for the venue booking. So, I'm releasing the hold to free you up to offer it to your other interested party. I didn't want you to have to wait until the noon deadline." Maria, a veteran of the event world, understood the subtext immediately. Planners don't use language like, "I am no longer financially responsible," unless a major line has been crossed. "I see," she said, her voice dropping with a note of understanding. Well, I appreciate you calling me directly, Kaylee. That's very professional of you. I'll release it right now. And please let me know if there's anything else I can help you with in the future. Thanks, Maria, you too. We hung up, it was done. The entire exchange took less than 2 minutes. It was a clean, precise cut. I hadn't raised my voice, I hadn't been emotional, and I hadn't badmouthed my cousin. I had simply withdrawn my resources and my professional leverage, just as Jessica's ultimatum had invited me to do. She didn't want me there unless I could provide real family support. In my world, putting a hold on a premium venue and fronting a $5,000 deposit was a pretty significant act of support. By their definition, I was now officially unsupportive. Therefore, my involvement was officially over. I saved the call log on my phone. Evidence. Not that I thought I'd need it in a court of law, but in the court of family opinion, documentation was everything. I spent the next hour waiting for the inevitable explosion. It was like watching a distant storm cloud roll in, knowing the lightning was coming. I imagined the scene. Jessica, brimming with confidence, would eventually call the conservatory herself, probably to discuss the placement of her flower wall. Maria, ever the professional, would politely inform her that the date was no longer available. Jessica would be confused. She would insist her cousin, the planner, had handled it. Maria would state, just as politely, that her cousin, the planner, had personally called to cancel the hold. The first tremor hit at 12:45 p.m., a single text from Jessica. That one punctuation mark was filled with a universe of confusion and dawning horror. I didn't reply. 5 minutes later, my phone began to ring. It was Jessica. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. I let it go to voicemail again. Then, a text. Kaylee, call me right now. The conservatory just said you canceled my baby shower venue. What is going on? The use of all caps, the multiple question marks and exclamation points. The panic was setting in. The narrative she had so carefully constructed was already starting to crumble. She hadn't gotten her way. The world had failed to bend to her will. I took a sip of my now cold coffee and smiled. She had demanded a party fit for royalty, but she had forgotten one crucial detail. The person she expected to fund the kingdom had just abdicated the throne. The chaos was just beginning. The volcano that was my cousin Jessica began to erupt. After her frantic texts and calls went unanswered, she did exactly what I knew she would. She took the issue to the family group chat. The place where she had issued her royal decree was now about to become her battlefield. The first message landed like a bomb. I cannot believe this. Kaylee canceled the venue for my baby shower. She called them this morning and canceled it behind my back, after I trusted her with everything. My one special day ruined. Immediately, Aunt Brenda jumped in, her fury palpable through the screen. She did what? Kaylee, what is the meaning of this? You answer your cousin right now. This is the most spiteful, jealous thing I have ever seen in my life. My phone began to vibrate incessantly, a ceaseless hum of notifications. Aunts, uncles, and cousins started chiming in. Why would she do that? There must be a misunderstanding. Kaylee, that's horrible. They were reacting to the story Jessica was feeding them, that I, out of pure malice, had sabotaged her perfect day. They had forgotten the context of her ultimatum from the night before. Or, more likely, they had seen my got it and assumed I had agreed to her terms, making my subsequent actions seem like a shocking betrayal. I remained silent. My silence was a vacuum, and they rushed to fill it with their own assumptions and accusations. I let them. Every message they sent, every accusation they leveled, was based on incomplete information. They were building a case against me with no input from the defendant. The next call I received wasn't from an angry relative, but from my grandma Alina. I answered immediately. Kaylee, dear, she said, her voice calm and steady amidst the storm. Your phone seems to be very popular this afternoon. Hi, Grandma, I said, a wave of relief washing over me. I imagine it is. Brenda is losing her mind. She's telling everyone you've deliberately ruined Jessica's party out of jealousy. I'm assuming there's more to this story than what's being screamed in the group chat. Grandma Aliner was a retired history teacher. She believed in primary sources, context, and hearing both sides of a story. She was the only one I knew who wouldn't leap to conclusions. "There is, Grandma," I said. I calmly forwarded her the screenshots. The first was of Jessica's initial demand that I pay for a $25,000 party as my gift. The second was the group chat ultimatum, where Jessica stated that anyone who couldn't provide real family support, i.e., expensive gifts and contributions, shouldn't bother coming. The third was the private text from Aunt Brenda, doubling down on the demand and pressure. Finally, I sent her my 2-word reply, "Got it." I explained the sequence of events. She gave me an ultimatum, Grandma. She said if I couldn't provide real family support, I wasn't welcome. My part of that support, according to them, was booking and paying for a venue I can't afford. So I accepted her terms. I can't afford it, so I am not providing it. I simply formalized my withdrawal from the event. I didn't cancel her party. I canceled my involvement and my financial contribution, which is exactly what she told me to do if I couldn't meet her demands. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing softly. Finally, she said, "I see, you took them at their word. Brenda and Jessica have been spending too much time in that fantasy world on the internet and have forgotten how the real world works. They mistake demands for destiny." She sighed. "This is a mess, Kaylee, a mess of their own making." "I know," I said quietly. "But I'm done cleaning up their messes, Grandma. I'm done being the family shock absorber." "Good for you," she said, and there was a note of pride in her voice that almost made me cry. "Stick to your guns. The truth has a way of coming out. Let them tire themselves out." We hung up and I felt 1,000 pounds lighter. I had an ally. Not just an ally, but the one person in the family whose opinion truly mattered, whose judgment was respected by everyone. Meanwhile, the chaos in the group chat was escalating. Aunt Brenda had now called the conservatory herself and had gotten the same story from Maria. Kaylee had professionally and politely released the hold. This fact didn't help my case in their eyes, it made it worse. "She's so conniving," Brenda texted. "She did it in a way that makes her look PR." Professional, the snake, she knew exactly what she was doing. Jessica's husband, Liam, made his first appearance. "Jess is devastated. We can't get the venue back. They've already given the date to someone else. Kaylee, this has caused so much stress. Jessica's supposed to be avoiding stress for the baby." The ultimate guilt trip, using the unborn child as a shield. I felt a flash of anger, but it passed. I wouldn't be drawn in. The next phase of their panic was realizing the financial implications. The conservatory was gone. They would have to find a new venue, and with only a few weeks to go, their options would be limited and expensive. The Michelin star caterer Jessica required a secured venue before he would even take a meeting. Her grand vision was crumbling, and it was crumbling because the magic money fairy, me, had flown away. Then the narrative began to shift. Some of the quieter family members started asking questions. My cousin Sarah, who had a young family and a tight budget, tentatively typed, "I was a little worried about that registry, to be honest." The cheapest thing on it was a $150 baby monitor. Another cousin added, "Yeah, I didn't know what real family support meant. I was going to get a gift card." These small seeds of doubt were quickly stamped out by Aunt Brenda. "This isn't about the registry. This is about Kaylee's vindictive behavior. She should have just talked to us." But the damage was done. People were starting to connect the dots between the registry, the ultimatum, and the canceled venue. My silence was forcing them to review the evidence themselves. The climax of the afternoon came in the form of a phone call. It was Aunt Brenda. I knew I couldn't ignore her forever. I took a deep breath and answered, putting the phone on speaker. "You," she shrieked, her voice raspy with fury. "How dare you? After everything we've done for you, how dare you humiliate your cousin like this?" "Aunt Brenda," I said, my voice calm and even. I did nothing of the sort. I respected Jessica's wishes. She made it very clear that my presence was conditional on a financial contribution I was not prepared to make. I have the messages, as do you. You twisted her words. You know she's emotional right now. You're supposed to be family. You're supposed to take care of her. Taking care of her does not mean funding a party that costs more than my yearly salary, I countered. I offered to plan a beautiful, affordable shower. She refused. She wanted a specific, incredibly expensive party, and she wanted me to pay for it. When I said I couldn't, she gave me an ultimatum in front of the entire family. I'm not sure what part of that is confusing to you. You are a selfish, jealous child, she spat. You've always been jealous of Jessica's sparkle. No, Aunt Brenda, I said, and my voice was cold now. I'm a grown woman with a business to run and bills to pay. Jessica is also a grown woman who is about to be a mother. If she and Liam want to host a $25,000 party, they are more than welcome to pay for it themselves. But my money is my money. It is not a family resource for you or her to command. My involvement is over. Please don't contact me about this again. I hung up before she could reply. I blocked her number. Then I blocked Jessica S. The cascade of chaos had washed over me, but I was standing on dry ground. They had created the storm, and now they were caught in their own flood. The grand unraveling was next, and I had a front row seat. The fallout from my decision echoed through the family for the next week. The silence from my end, contrasted with the noise from Jessica and Aunt Brenda's, created a strange dynamic. It forced people to think for themselves. The narrative of evil, jealous Kaylee wasn't holding up because it didn't make sense. I had always been the helpful, reliable one. My sudden refusal to play my assigned role was so out of character that it made people question the script itself. Grandma Alina played a quiet but pivotal role. When relatives would call her to gossip or get her opinion, she would simply say, "Have you read all the messages carefully? From the beginning?" She didn't take my side publicly, nor did she condemn Jessica. She just encouraged critical thinking, which was, in itself, a powerful endorsement of my position. The grand unraveling began with the guest list. Without the promise of a spectacular, Instagram-worthy event at the conservatory, some of Jessica's influencer friends suddenly became unavailable. The allure of attending a party is significantly diminished when it's no longer at a premier location and might be, God forbid, a potluck in a church basement. The social capital she thought she had was proving to be as ephemeral as a sponsored story that disappears in 24 hours. Then, the financial reality hit them like a ton of bricks. Without my expertise and industry connections to find affordable yet beautiful alternative. And without my money to fund it, Jessica and Liam were left on their own. They tried to book other venues, but the short notice meant prices were high and options were few. They got quotes for catering, for decorations, for that all-important flower wall. The numbers were staggering. Liam, who had been a passive participant up to this point, was suddenly forced to confront the actual cost of his wife's fantasy. I heard through the family grapevine, via my cousin Sarah, who had since called me to apologize and offer her support, that Liam and Jessica were fighting constantly. He had seen the registry but had naively assumed it was aspirational. He had heard the plans for the shower but assumed I, good old Kaylee, was magically making it happen for a fraction of the cost. He had no idea they were expected to foot a bill that was equivalent to his take-home pay for 6 months. The pressure finally broke them. About 2 weeks after my got it text, my grandmother called me. "They're coming over," she said. "Jessica, Liam, and Brenda, they want to talk. They asked if you would be here." My first instinct was to say no. I had said my piece. I had extricated myself. Why walk back into the fire? "I think you should come, Kaylee," Grandma Alina said gently. "Not for them, for you. This is a chance to close the book, not just walk away from it. You don't have to say much, just be here. Let them see you, calm and strong. Let the contrast speak for itself." I trusted my grandmother's wisdom. I agreed. I arrived at Grandma Alina's house 10 minutes early. It was a place of comfort, filled with the smell of old books and freshly baked cookies. When the doorbell rang, my stomach clenched, but I stood beside my grandmother as she opened the door. Jessica, Liam, and Aunt Brenda stood on the porch. They looked exhausted. Jessica's eyes were puffy, and her usual perfectly made-up face was bare. Aunt Brenda's expression wasn't furious anymore, it was pinched and weary. Liam just looked defeated. We sat in the living room, the silence thick and heavy. It was Aunt Brenda who spoke first, her voice stripped of its earlier arrogance. "Kaylee, we think there's been a misunderstanding." I just looked at her, I didn't say a word. "We never expected you to pay for everything yourself," she mumbled, not quite meeting my eyes. This was the moment. The lie. The attempt to rewrite history. Before I could even formulate a response, Grandma Aliner spoke from her armchair, her voice as sharp and clear as a bell. "Brenda, stop it. Don't you dare come into my home and lie. I saw the text messages you sent to Kaylee. It's your duty to help your family. Booking that conservatory is the bare minimum we expect from you." Those were your words. There was no misunderstanding. There was a demand. Let's not insult everyone's intelligence by pretending otherwise. Aunt Brenda flinched as if she'd been struck. The truth, spoken so plainly, had shattered her flimsy defense. Jessica burst into tears, not the performative sobs of her online persona, but genuine, racking sobs of stress and humiliation. Liam put a comforting arm around her, but he looked at me. "Kaylee, we're sorry," he said, his voice quiet but sincere. "I had no idea, I didn't understand the scale of it. Jess got carried away and I didn't pay enough attention. And my mother-in-law," he trailed off, glancing at Brenda. "We were wrong. It was an insane thing to ask." Jessica finally looked at me, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so embarrassed," she whispered. "Everything fell apart. My friends aren't coming. We can't afford any of the things I wanted. The registry people were laughing at it. Someone posted it on a gossip forum. The influencer's worst nightmare, becoming the subject of ridicule. Her carefully curated world had imploded." "I just wanted everything to be perfect," she cried. "I see all these other girls online, and their lives look so perfect. Their showers, their nurseries, I felt like if I didn't have that, I was failing already, as a mother." And there it was. The painful, vulnerable truth behind the monstrous entitlement. It wasn't just greed. It was a deep, terrifying insecurity, magnified and distorted by the funhouse mirror of social media. I looked at my cousin, the girl I used to build blanket forts with, and I didn't feel anger anymore. I just felt a profound sadness. Sadness for the pressure she put on herself, sadness for the way she had weaponized her pregnancy, and sadness that our relationship had been brought to this breaking point. I finally spoke, my voice soft but firm. "I understand being insecure, Jess. I understand wanting things to be perfect. What I don't understand is why you thought it was okay to make your insecurities my financial burden. What I don't understand is why you and Aunt Brenda decided that blackmailing your family was the way to achieve that perfection." I turned my gaze to Aunt Brenda, and you're her mother. You should have guided her, not encouraged her worst impulses. You used the idea of family to justify greed. That's what I can't forgive." Aunt Brenda just stared at her hands, silent. "The baby shower isn't happening," Liam said quietly. "We canceled it. We're just going to have a small family get-together here at Aliner's, if that's okay." He looked at his grandmother, who nodded slowly. "And we took down the registry. We're starting over, with a list from Target." The grand, royal welcome had unraveled into a quiet, humble gathering. The public spectacle had become a private reckoning. I looked at them, truly looked at them, and knew that things would never be the same. The apology was a start, but it wasn't a magic wand. Trust, once shattered so completely, takes a long, long time to rebuild, if ever. "I appreciate the apology," I said, standing up. "I hope you have a lovely get-together. I wish you and the baby all the health and happiness in the world." Jessica looked up, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Will you come?" I paused at the door. "No, Jessica, I can't. The invitation you all gave me in the group chat was very clear. I was told not to come if I couldn't provide real support. And right now, the most supportive thing I can do for myself is to stay away from this drama. I need to rebuild my own peace. I walked out of the house, leaving them to sit with the consequences of their actions. The book was closed. In the months that followed the grand unraveling, a quiet but significant shift occurred within our family. The power dynamic, which had for so long been tilted in favor of the loudest and most demanding voices, had been rebalanced. My simple act of stepping back had forced everyone to reevaluate what family and support really meant. It wasn't about money or lavish parties. It was about respect, boundaries, and unconditional love. The very things Jessica and Aunt Brenda had tried to replace with a price tag. Jessica had her baby, a healthy little girl named Lily. The baby shower was, as Liam had said, a small, quiet affair at Grandma Aliner's house. I was not there, but I sent a simple, practical gift, a large box filled with diapers, wipes, and a gift certificate for a meal delivery service. It was a gift that said, "I care about your well-being, not I am funding your brand." I received a short, simple text from Liam a few days later. "Thank you, Kaylee, for everything." My relationship with Jessica remains distant, but it is no longer hostile. The experience humbled her in a way I don't think anything else could have. Her social media presence changed. The curated perfection was replaced by a more honest portrayal of motherhood, the sleepless nights, the spit-up stains, the overwhelming love. She lost some of her fair-weather influencer followers, but she seemed to gain something far more valuable: authenticity. We exchange polite texts on holidays and birthdays. It's a start. Maybe one day we can rebuild a fort of blankets and trust, but we're not there yet. The biggest change was with Aunt Brenda. Our relationship is effectively over. She sees me as the one who broke her daughter's spirit, while I see her as the architect of the whole mess. We are civil when we have to be at larger family gatherings, like Christmas at Grandma's, but the warmth is gone, replaced by a permanent, icy distance. Some relationships are not meant to be salvaged, and I've made my peace with that. As for me, I have never felt more free. Pulling my funding from the venue was more than just a financial decision. It was a declaration of self-worth. It was me, finally, unconditionally, taking my own side. My business has flourished, ironically because the focus and energy I used to spend managing family drama are now channeled into my work. I'm landing bigger clients, taking on more ambitious projects, and building a life for myself that is defined by my own accomplishments, not by the demands of others. The greatest gift to come out of this whole ordeal was the strengthening of my bond with Grandma Aliner. We talk on the phone several times a week, and I have dinner at her house every Sunday. She taught me that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to quietly stand your ground and let the truth do the work for you. Her unwavering, quiet support was the anchor that held me steady through the storm. A few weeks ago, my cousin Sarah, the one with the young family, called me. She wanted to plan a first birthday party for her son and asked if she could hire me. "I have a budget," she said immediately, almost laughing. "It's not huge, but I'll pay your full rate. I want to do this right." As I sat down with her to sketch out ideas for a simple, joyful party in a park, I felt a sense of profound peace. This was what family helping family was supposed to look like: mutual respect, clear boundaries, and a shared desire to create happiness, not to project an I am. Hey. I no longer bend over backward to keep the peace at my own expense. I've learned that no is a complete sentence, and that my resources, my time, my money, and my emotional energy are mine to give, not for others to take. The whole saga began with a text that tried to put a price on family support, but I ended up discovering something priceless: my own peace. And that is a gift no registry can ever hold.